Hello and welcome. This is Heavy Business. I'm Aaliyah,
And I'm Cori.
and today we're going to talk about harmonizing expectations, navigating your first PR campaign for long term success. This is a parallel podcast to a blog article that Cori published on the C Squared website. That will be linked down in the info below if you want more details. But diving right in, Cori, why is a well executed PR campaign so important?
Well, it really does maximize your reach to blogs, to print media, to all the different media outlets that may or may not cover your music. Yes, you can certainly send your music out to these outlets on your own. That is perfectly doable. Most of them have an email that you can reach out to. But the point of hiring a PR is that the PR will, presumably, if they are a good PR, have relationships with all of those media outlets, people that they can go to, people that they can talk to get your coverage noticed. Because one of the things that I don't know if every band realizes this, I know a lot of bands do, but these guys are getting hundreds, if not thousands, of emails every day. So having somebody on your side that knows the exact right person to go to that not only will cover your music, but actually likes your style of music and things like that is a lot better than just going in cold and hoping for the best.
And why is it why is it important to set realistic expectations going into this?
Because at the end of the day, we can have all of the relationships and be best friends with everybody in the world, but your music still does have to generate traffic for the website. It still has to generate sales for the print magazine if you're in one of the print features or something like that. You still have to illustrate why your band is a benefit to the site rather than just the site being a benefit to your band. So, kind of managing your expectations, there are very little or very few campaigns out there that instantly launch a band into overnight fame. Even bands that look like they've become mega famous overnight have 5 to 10 years behind them already before they finally broke through. A good example of this is Lorna Shore. Their last album skyrocketed them. Like it went absolutely insane. But the band had been around for 10 years by that point. So it's not like they were brand new to this. That's just the one that finally hit. And they continued to get coverage and they continued to get support from the media because they were generating the traffic there. So it's a two-way street. The sites are there to benefit the bands and introduce people to new music and things like that, but you also have to have some sort of something that draws people in to the site specifically. And that could be just as simple as having a really robust social media presence where when you share the articles, your fans are going to go check them out. And that is huge to websites when bands actually support the work that they do. So it doesn't always have to be like you're a mega famous band or you're a huge band. If you're a band with a dedicated following who does put in the effort to share things after your PR has gotten you features.
And what kind of scope can a band look at or expect for a first PR campaign?
So, generally speaking, and this is going to vary from campaign to campaign, you will get news pieces. That's going to be the vast majority of what you're going to get is news pieces. So that's people either reposting the press release or rewriting the information in the press release in some way to share either your single or your video or whatever it is that you're putting out there. Second most common thing you're going to get is written interviews because they're generally quick, they're easy, and they are low cost for the website. When it comes to things like podcast interviews, video interviews, those are expensive to create. They're time consuming to create. If a website is paying someone, like say if a website was paying you, Aaliyah, to have this podcast and edit it and put in all the hours of effort that you do for each of these podcasts, it would get quite expensive to do that for every single band. So they generally reserve that to bands that are either bigger or they're bands that have something really unique, really special. And they may just be getting started, but there's something there that they can talk about. And it also is going to depend on what you're releasing. So if you are going out of the gate with your debut single and nothing else, you're going to get news posts. You're not going to get interviews. You're not going to get reviews because it's one song. There's not enough for somebody to talk about there. Now, if you're going out with your debut single and you're releasing your album, you've announced it, we're sending out a press kit with your full album, then you can expect to get a bit more than you would with just a single. Now, your second single is going to do better. Your third single is going to do better. The more that you release and the longer your campaign, the better it's going to do.
Sure, that makes sense. Now, what kind of goals should bands or musicians aim for with their first campaign?
With their first campaign, it would just be one, getting as much coverage as you can. Even if it's a smaller site, those little sites do add up. And if you're one of our clients, we give you a snazzy little report that shows exactly how many people visited the article that you went or that we got for you. So say it's, 1,500 people went and saw this article, you'll see that in the little analytics that we offer. The other thing that bands should set as a goal, and this is something that's going to be kind of underrated, is getting practice for your interviews. Um, One thing that I will say that does a band a lot of good is being really, really good at your interviews. So even if you're getting smaller websites, smaller YouTube channels, things like that, take advantage of that. Use it to build up your interviewing skills because I've seen bands go very, very far on just having really good interview skills. Perfect example of this is the band Undeath. I have interviewed Alex, their frontman, a few times, and he is a delight to talk to. And it's one of the things that, yes, the music is great. Their videos are hilarious and just, I love them. But Alex is such a delightful person to talk to that people want to come talk to him, even though the band is, still growing. They're still developing. They're not the biggest death metal band out there, but Alex is delightful. So the more engaging you are in your interviews, the more interviews you're going to get. So take the opportunity with those early interviews to really hone your interview skills and also identify who in the band should be doing the interviews. I think all of you should at least attempt one, but it is good to have somebody that is kind of the designated guy to talk, or girl, or person, or rabbit, or parrot, if you have that kind of band.
Or goblin?
Or goblin. Goblin, yes. Otherworldly creature, if we are in the talks of Guar or Lordy.
Yeah, I think that piece of the puzzle is so important
Mhm.
and it's kind of underrated. So, yeah, bands take note of that for sure.
For
Um,
sure. I mean, I know a lot of bands kind of, not all bands, but a lot of bands kind of turn their nose up at the smaller sites when it comes to interviews. And one thing I will say is you never know where somebody's career is going to take them. And they will remember if they get a job at, Loudwire tomorrow, they're going to remember how people were when they were small. And two, it is such valuable experience getting comfortable talking to people about your work.
how quickly can bands expect to see results from a PR campaign?
So you'll usually see your first results within 1 week of your release, and it kind of ebbs and flows. So you'll do a single release and you'll get a few pieces, and those will all be gathered, and then it'll kind of trickle off. And then you'll do another run, and then more pieces will come in, and then it'll trickle off a little bit. And then let's say you release your album, that's when the bulk of everything comes in, is usually the last 2 weeks of your album campaign, because that's when all the reviews start coming in. And that's when a lot of the interviews start coming in because the release is imminent and therefore, those interviews and those reviews are going to be relevant to the sites putting them out and the audiences reading them. Because if somebody goes and reads a super amazing review about your album, but then they have to wait 2 months for it, like, but waiting a couple of days, then hey, awesome. They're going to probably go and order it.
Yeah, people definitely that think about the patience and the desire to do a thing as soon as you think of it, because think about how easily people forget
Mhm.
things now. So you really want to be top of mind when it counts. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, that makes sense. We talked a lot about first PR campaigns here. Can you? Oh, I kind of wanted to go into a little bit about subsequent PR campaigns for second albums, third albums. Obviously, it changes depending on the band. And you said depending on what they do in between. So, can you share a little bit of your thoughts on that? How can bands enhance their next PR campaign in between PR campaigns?
Building their social media following. That is going to be the biggest thing. The more dedicated your audience, the more people are going to want to consume news about you. So that could be anything from posting memes to hosting AMAs, things like that, where you really engage your audience. Also, during and after your PR campaigns, you should be sharing the articles that are written about you, particularly if you have good reviews, things like that. You can share those throughout the year or 2 years or whatever it is in between releases. There's nothing wrong with, resharing content that has been that has existed. Uh, Touring is another thing to really both engage your audience and grow your audience. Uh, People who are dedicated to you are obviously going to come out to your show, and then new people who are dedicated to the other bands on the bill are going to be exposed to your music. So that again will grow your audience and create more of a hunger for news about you. So staying active and staying consistent in all of those different areas is going to be crucial, because then your next PR campaign, you're going to get even better results and then more opportunities post album release as your career continues to grow. Think about it like a snowball. So you're going to start off really small, and as the snowball rolls down the hill, it just more and more and more and more snow picks up onto the snowball. Or Val Kilmer if you are a Willow fan.
Oh, definitely.
Dude, who doesn't love
Definitely.
Willow? It's like the best.
Lame people.
Wrong people.
It's a classic.
It is a classic.
The music is so good. James Horner.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. Um, is it important to celebrate small wins?
It is. It's important to celebrate any wins. And it is important to prop up the people who've taken the time and the effort to talk to you, to write about you, things like that. So any coverage that you get, any interview that you get, anything along those lines, you should take the time to celebrate it, and then also thank the person for taking the time. Because again, a lot of this stuff is either really expensive to do if it's a video podcast that means they've had to buy all the equipment and things like that. Um, it's time consuming and most of the time it's unpaid. So a thank you can go an extremely long way with these kind of things. And you don't have to be over the top about it. Just acknowledge that, the person took the time and did something cool for you.
What kind of relationships should musicians be building in this time of their PR campaigns?
So going back to that whole saying thank you thing, that builds up solid relationships with all of those journalists. Even if you don't have 100% direct connection because you're using a PR agent, those journalists are going to remember the bands that were like, oh, fuck yeah, Carl covered my music. I don't actually know a Carl, but just saying. Or whoever covered my music, and they seem genuinely excited and genuinely appreciated. So that is actually going to build up relationships that you may not otherwise have. The other thing is building up fan relationships, because again, the hungrier people are for news about you, the more news you're going to get. It's also the same thing when it comes to streaming. The more people search for you, the more the algorithm helps you, because they're like, people want to know about this. We need to push it. So, all of those kind of relationships where you make genuinely invested fans, genuinely invested fan relationships where people very much care about what you're doing and what you've got going on. That's what's going to be the biggest key to your success.
How should bands handle constructive criticism?
With grace. Yeah, there are some mean spirited writers out there who kind of they come across a little bit power trippy, as if they are the decider of what is good music and what is not good music. And nobody is the decider of what is good music and what is not good music, because music is subjective. Uh, so no matter really what anybody says about your music, handle it with grace. because you can genuinely tell whether or not somebody is being mean spirited or somebody is being constructive. So mean spirited, ignore it. It's dumb. People are going to talk shit. They always will. And if they're not talking shit, that means they're not talking about. And that's not a place you want to be either. Because for every
True.
person that's going to talk shit, there's going to be a bunch of people who are still talking positively. Now, if it is constructive criticism, where the person is knowledgeable, they've done their research, maybe actually take in a little bit of it. Here's an example of a band that I know of that received a pretty negative review. But one of the criticisms was the band had absolutely no solos in their album. They're a melodic death metal band with no solos. Now,
Ooh, what? That's the
see,
genre for solos and riffs.
exactly. So that piece of criticism, while it was a bit harsh of a review, was constructive. That is something that would have added a new dynamic to their music and made it more engaging. So as you read these reviews and differentiate between what is mean spirited and what is constructive, take in some of the constructive criticism and see how you can improve, because nobody is perfect. No band is flawless, and nobody goes through their career not trying to improve and actually gets anywhere. Like you can be in your career and continue to make music and change absolutely nothing that you do, but you're going to stagnate. You're going to hit a wall. You're going to hit a, it's just, it's going to stop at some point, all of the trajectory that you've built. But as you receive criticism and as you receive feedback, learn from it. Try new things. And if they don't work, that's fine. If they don't work for you or the songs that you're trying to create, that's fine. Just try them. Give them a go. Always try something new, something dynamic to really expand on your skills, because you never know where your music can take you and where your music can go unless you're out there trying new stuff. Only one band I can think of can get away with releasing the same album for 50 years.
And that is,
AC/DC.
oh, yes, of course. But I think it is kind of hard to receive feedback. And I was just reading the other day that oftentimes when people receive negative feedback, they inherently go into fight or flight. They can't rationally parse what they're receiving,
Mhm.
and they get defensive. The walls go up. So I don't know. Do you have any advice on how to press through that emotion and rationally analyze the feedback that you're giving or being given, and be able to actually apply it?
So I think a lot of that fight or flight comes from feeling attacked personally. It's you it's a natural response. Like, I'm a writer. There isn't a piece that I've written that I haven't gotten some sort of negative feedback on. And yeah, it sucks. It's not fun. It's not fun to hear that somebody doesn't like something that you did that you worked on really, really hard. But the trick to getting past that is to remember that, particularly when it comes to musicians getting reviews in magazines and reviews online, it's not personal. These people, they don't know you. They don't know anything about you, and it's not a personal attack on you. And separating that from the reaction does make it easier to really just kind of dial back, and it's like, you know what? No, this person doesn't know me. This is not an attack on me or my music. This is just feedback. That's all it is. At the end of the day, all it is words on a page or words on a screen. It is unfortunate when you hear that somebody doesn't like your music, but at the end of the day, it is all just words. It's not going to it's not going to end your career when you get one bad review, but it can be valuable feedback, because as much as hearing negative feedback sucks, hearing only positive feedback is detrimental. Being surrounded by yes men will ruin your career faster than a negative review will. because again, you will stagnate. You will hit that wall because all you've ever been told is, yes, you are perfect. Yes, this is amazing. And if you surround yourself in just an echo chamber of yes, then you're not growing.
Amen. So at the end of the campaign, what what happens? What should bands be doing? What should bands expect after a campaign is over? We talked a little bit about what they could be doing in between releases, but other than that,
So bands after their PR campaign for the album should be entering a PR campaign for their tour. Just tossing that one out there. Even if it's a small tour, even if it's just a few dates that you've booked yourself, your album campaign should always transition, provided we are not in some sort of global catastrophe, should transition into a touring campaign, which then you take a break and you write your next album and the whole process starts all over again. And while you're actually writing, you can be sharing behind the scenes content. You could be giving people little snippets of the things that you're doing. You could start a podcast, you could start a Twitch stream, you could do all of these different, you could start a TikTok and do a lot of weird crap. But anything that keeps you engaged with your fans and keeps you top of mind is what you should be doing, and it should all be authentic, whatever that is. It should be something that you enjoy doing, or you're not going to be able to be consistent. So if you are a gamer and in between albums, you want to engage with your fans on Twitch by live streaming your games, then do it. If you are somebody who loves to be out and about in the local music scene, and even if you aren't somebody who loves to be out and about in the local music scene, you should still be doing it. Go to shows, go talk to people, go hang out, become somebody that people know. Because one, that's going to help you fan wise, but also with things like booking because people will know who you are.
anything else you want to say about PR campaigns?
Enter your first PR campaign with an open mind and with realistic expectations. That is what this whole podcast is about. An open mind as far as what kind of interviews you're going to get and what kind of coverage you're going to get. And don't discount any of the little guys. And then realistic expectations, because it's going to be very, very unlikely that you get the cover of Rolling Stone on your first PR campaign. Uh, I mean, it would be cool. It'd be awesome. But if nobody knows who you are, then people aren't going to really buy that cover. So, and don't get discouraged. If things start out slow, that's perfectly normal. Keep going, keep releasing things, keep releasing singles, keep engaging with your fans. You could do things like remixes if you don't want to do a full blown release. You could do a lot of different things to continue the engagement, but just don't stop. Don't get discouraged and don't stop, because it is, again, a very, very, very rare band that hits a big time on the first album or the first single or the first anything. So don't take that personally. That's just the way things are. Don't stop, because if you stop, then you're definitely never getting anywhere. If you keep going, you may still get somewhere.
Thank you so much for going through this with us today, Cori, and everyone listening. Thank you for listening. And until next time, make like a bull and throw those horns up.